He pinched her arm and asked one question. But the police found something far more horrifying. A little girl's innocent mistake, predator's twisted obsession, and a mother's secret that took 20 years to reveal. This is the story of Jennifer Clark and the monster who almost took her life. It began with the peeling of bark. Innocent, instinctive, and entirely meaningless. But for Jennifer Clark, what her nephew did that afternoon in her sister's backyard unsealed a memory she had long buried in the silt of time. As she stood at the window watching young Harrison strip bark from a tree, something deep and cold crawled up her spine. Without realizing it, she whispered the words so weird, not loud but not quite silent. Her mother, Lorraine Clark, caught it from the next room and asked what was weird, as mothers do. Jen dismissed it quickly, awkwardly, but Lorraine had already walked into the room, already noticed where Jen was staring, and already seen the stillness in her daughter's eyes. What are the boys doing that's so strange? Jen tried to wave it off, but the past had already cracked open. She began, unsure whether her mother remembered the story she was about to tell. She doubted anyone remembered it at all. Jennifer was 8 years old when she met him, though she never really met him, not the way children meet strangers with a name and a handshake. There was no exchange, only fear. She had arranged to meet her childhood friend Frankie after school. He had homework to do, and so she waited for him across the street from his house in what the neighborhood children had charmingly named the Pinecone Forest. A meager assembly of trees clustered like secrets. While she stood there, she peeled bark from a tree without even knowing she was doing it. The movement was unconscious, meditative. It was the scent of stale, illicit drug smoke that first alerted her that she was not alone. When she turned, the man approaching was already within 10 feet. He was a tall, graying figure with deep yellow teeth and fingernails so long and pointed they looked like they had been cultivated. He wore a blank expression but carried with him a stench of something unnatural. When he stopped beside her, he didn't look at her. He looked at the tree, at the spot where she had peeled its bark, and then he looked at her with eyes that pierced. "What do you think you're doing?" Jen hesitated, nervous. "I'm just waiting for my friend." But he didn't care. "No, what are you doing to the tree?" She told him she was peeling the bark. Then, slowly, methodically, he raised a hand with those jagged nails and pressed them into her arm. He didn't pinch with his fingers. He clawed with the nails, dragging them into her skin like thorns digging into soft earth. Through gritted, yellow teeth, he asked how she would like it if someone peeled her skin off. Jennifer didn't scream. She didn't move. She was paralyzed. That's what fear does when it's ancient and unprocessed. It freezes you. And then a voice, sharp and saving, rang out from across the street. Frankie's mother, Sonia Martinez, was calling her inside. The spell broke. Jen wrenched her arm free and ran, never looking back until she reached the porch. Only then did she glance behind to find him still standing by the tree, unmoving, eyes fixed on her. She never told anyone. Not then, not later. The memory faded, slowly, like ink on skin under sunlight. And yet, watching Harrison peel that bark 20 years later, the nightmare flooded back. She confessed the memory to her mother, expecting maybe shock, maybe some curiosity. But Lorraine's expression turned dark, not the ordinary shade of concern. Something deeper, older, something like shame. She admitted there was more to the story, much more. She had kept a secret, one that began the same day Jennifer was pinched, and one that would change everything Jennifer thought she knew about that incident. Lorraine explained how the neighborhood had always been close-knit, the kind of place where a strange car didn't go unnoticed, where parents became sentinels with their eyes trained on the unusual. That day, Sonia Martinez saw a van parked just outside the Pinecone Forest. It was a white work van with no company logo, no back windows, and no obvious purpose. It wasn't parked near any particular house. It was simply there, out of place, suspicious. She watched it for hours. No one came, no one left. As the sun arced across the sky, Sonia's unease became certainty. She was about to call the police when she saw the van's back doors fly open and a man leap out, bolting toward the trees. From her front window, She could only see part of the pinecone forest. She ran to the side of the house for a clearer view, and that's when she saw Jennifer standing by the tree. She watched the man, teeth, fingernails, stench, stride straight up to the child and pinch her. She could see the menace in his stance. She didn't scream. She didn't run to intervene. Instead, Sonia calmly opened the front door and called Jennifer inside, feigning normalcy. If she panicked, he might panic. If she screamed, he might snatch the girl. Jennifer came running. Sonia locked every door, every window, and picked up the phone. The police arrived within minutes. Officers found the van exactly where Sonia described. Inside was a man matching the suspect's appearance. His behavior was erratic. He stank of sweat and illicit substance. The front seats were covered in filth, crushed illicit substance, fast food wrappers, and nothing else. But the back of the van was locked with a separate latch and a thick padlock. When police asked to open it, he resisted, made excuses. Eventually, he relented. He produced a key ring with 2 distinct keys and unlocked the back. When they opened the doors, the officers stepped back in revulsion. The inside of the van was a grotesque shrine. Hundreds of photographs were taped to every surface. Floor, ceiling, walls. All of Jennifer Clark. Not just recent pictures, but images of her as a 6-year-old, possibly even younger. He had been watching her for years. There were telescopic lenses, a camera, and notepads filled with dates and times, as though he had been documenting her life with disturbing precision. But this was only the surface. There was another key on the ring, one that opened a storage locker miles away, and what was inside would scar the minds of even the seasoned officers who entered it. The locker was lined with clear plastic sheeting like something out of a horror film. Beneath the plastic, more photographs of Jennifer. Hundreds more. In the center stood a dentist's chair bolted to the floor. Beside it, a silver tray like one you might find in a surgical room, but instead of medical tools, it held rusted cleavers and hunting blades. On another table, an anatomy book had been opened and bookmarked with printed pictures of Jennifer. Entire chapters were highlighted sections on the female nervous system, circulation, reproductive organs. The notes were obsessive, clinical, deranged. Against the back wall were shackles and chains. A stained mattress sat rotting on the floor, and in the corner, stacked like some macabre reserve, were dozens of empty 5-gallon drums. What the police uncovered was not just a shrine. It was a chamber, a carefully constructed place of planned horror. A room designed for only one victim, Jennifer Clark. The man never gave a motive. He confessed to stalking her. He admitted the van and the locker were his, but he never explained why. He was declared criminally insane and committed to a secure mental institution. For years, that's where the trail ended. When Jennifer heard the full story, she was no longer that little girl by the tree. She was a mother now, a protector, and the story shattered her in a way nothing had before. She hugged Lorraine not just because she was grateful to be alive, but because she finally understood what her mother had carried for decades. And then she needed answers. Real ones. She tracked down the facility where the man was housed. She requested a meeting. She wanted to look him in the eye and ask him what he was planning. Why her? Why those pictures? Why that room? The man agreed. But the night before the meeting, he eliminated himself. No note, no explanation, only a void, cold and absolute. The truth, whatever it was, died with him. And so Jennifer Clark was left with the aftermath of almost being taken, almost being unalived, almost being someone whose name became a cautionary tale. Almost. And that almost is what haunts her most. What frightens Jennifer is not just the memory of his yellow nails or the sharp sting of his pinch. It is the knowledge that evil doesn't always come with screaming. Sometimes it waits quietly in a white van, parks across from a forest, and plans for years. Sometimes it calls itself patient. Sometimes it never even gets to act, and still it changes the course of a life forever. And so she lives with it, not with trauma, but with an invisible bruise, one that never fades completely. Because there are monsters in this world who don't wear masks, who walk among us unnoticed, who buy anatomy books and rent storage units and keep folders of photographs of children they never speak to. And sometimes they vanish into institutions, leaving behind questions that never get answered. What were you going to do to me? Why me? Why not someone else? But Jennifer Clark knows the truth now. The real truth, that she was never paranoid, that her memory was real, that the man with the claws wasn't a ghost. He was a man with a plan she barely escaped. And the scariest part? He might not have been the only one. So now we ask you, what do you think that man was preparing for? Why do you think he chose Jennifer? And how many others might he have watched but never reached? And here's the darkest question of all. Do you think someone like him is watching a child right now, planning in silence? Tell us your thoughts in the comments. And if this story left you shaken, subscribe for more. Because the scariest stories aren't just fiction. They're the ones that almost came true.